Welcome back to the Bargain Bin Dumpster Dive. We've got a good number of actual science fiction movies here, and 4 Hercules movies for some reason. Normally I'd skip them, but I already wrote like 10 pages of notes on these bloody things, and I'm not about to let that go to waste. Same content warning as last time, let's get right into it. Gamera vs. Guiron is the 5th entry in the Gamera series, and the tonal whiplash between this and the first movie can't be understated.
Let's go, Gamera!
By this point, the series had found its groove as kid-oriented. Gamera's days of coldly slaughtering thousands of innocent people were behind him. He was saving the world from a new monster in every film, and giving kids a ride on his back. One interesting thing regarding Gamera vs. Guiron is that it is the first Gamera movie Shunsuke Kikuchi did music for. It's not a great score, but Kikuchi would go on to become an incredibly prolific and very talented composer. If you've watched the original Japanese version of Dragon Ball Z, you've likely heard his work. He would go on to do music for the rest of the Showa Gamera series, and you can really hear the Dragon Ball in his score for Gamera Super Monster. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. I'm putting off talking about this movie because I know the moment I'm done with it, it's back to the coal mines of schlock cinema. In the US, Gamera vs. Guiron was released directly to television as Attack of the Monsters. None of these renamed Gamera movies have very specific titles, by the way. Gamera vs. Barugon was retitled War of the Monsters, Gamera vs. Gauss was Return of the Giant Monsters, and Gamera vs. Virus was released around the same time as Destroy All Monsters, so it was renamed to Destroy All Planets. Gamera vs. Jiger was changed to Gamera vs. Monster X. No relation to the actual Monster X that would appear in Godzilla Final Wars, and okay, fine, I'll talk about Gamera vs. Guiron.
Gee, grown-ups spoil a dream.
2 boys, named Akio and Tom, are stargazing one night and see a flying saucer. When they go to investigate the next day, they get on board the UFO and are taken to a strange planet where they meet 2 friendly yet ridiculous-looking space ladies. Gamera met the 2 boys on their voyage, so he chases after the UFO to rescue them from the 2 aliens, who are actually evil and want to eat their brains.
We'll gobble their brains raw.
Eat their brains?
Oh yeah, and one more thing. Very easy to forget. The 2 aliens have a giant monster of their own. A knife-shaped kaiju named Guiron. Guiron's design is a stroke of mad genius. The big dumb knife on his head can deflect laser beams, and even opens up to reveal ninja stars that he throws to incapacitate Gamera.
A go-go dancer! Gamera's doing a dance!
It can even do this. I love Guiron, he's crazy. I'm actually okay with this movie. It carries a childlike sense of creativity and is full of imagination, from the design of the alien planet to the absurd appearance of Guiron himself. It's undoubtedly silly, and the fight scenes really needed an editor because holy shit are they slow. The scene where the boys try to outrun the alien ladies also drags on for quite some time. I really started to feel the runtime with that. But I like Guiron as a monster. The creativity and silly moments go a long way in endearing the movie to me. Structurally, it's repetitive and it's a bit meandering, but I don't know, I liked it. I couldn't figure out where else to put this, but Akio is also just an extremely rude little kid.
Let's catch it! Come on, you idiot! Is anyone here? Idiot?
You kiss your mother with that mouth?
Please don't make me go back to the salt mines. I want more Gamera movies. Fine. I won't spend much time on these next 2 films because I already covered them in my monkey movie video. Check that out after this video, but I'll go over them quickly. Bride of the Gorilla stars Raymond Burr as a man cursed into becoming a gorilla. It's hokey and vaguely racist, and it's just not very good.
White people shouldn't live too long in the jungle.
Kong Island is a deceptively marketed Italian movie. The slipcase on the Mill Creek set incorrectly summarizes the film to make it sound like it's more related to King Kong than it really is. No such giant ape appears. In actuality, it's an aggressively boring flick about mad scientists who try to control the brains of a gorilla population through mind control. It's a contender for one of the worst movies ever made.
The sacred monkeys! The sacred monkeys! Where? There, in the treetop!
With that said, on to the next film. The irony of covering a Christmas movie during a Halloween special is not lost on me, but hey, it's in this box set and it has actual science fiction elements, so I gotta cover it.
You Martian!
Whoa!
That's a lot to unpack.
You'd expect something satirical from a title as raw as Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, but unfortunately what we have here is a rancid little children's film about Santa being kidnapped by Martians and forced to bring Christmas cheer to Mars. A couple of kids tag along for the adventure too.
Santa's a fucking cognito hazard.
He slipped laughing gas into the air. You're all gonna die.
A Martian named Goldar isn't a fan of this whole Santa Claus plan and tries to get rid of him and the kids. Instead of Santa, they accidentally kidnapped this massive doofus named Droppo, somehow mistaking him for Santa.
Where are you going? Ho, ho, ho!
And the film ends with the kids humiliating Goldar into submission with toys in a frankly unhinged scene. The discordant music, the bizarre camera work, the cutting, it all feels like a surreal horror film. Apparently this film holds the distinction of being the cinematic debut of Mrs. Claus. Pretty demented first appearance.
Hello there!
It's also on IMDb's bottom 100 movies, so make of that what you will.
No one expects the Martian Inquisition.
More toys?
Those are Martians.
That's what that scene reads as. I like the funky little cheap sets. Hell, a lot of things in this movie are unapologetically silly. Obviously it's a film made for children, but every actor is delivering their lines with sincerity.
Torg, come out of the spaceship! Torg, come out of the spaceship!
Both that and the bizarre direction lead to unintended comedy. Kiss me!
I thought they actually were for a second. I was like, I didn't know this was a progressive movie.
When the movie is actually trying to be funny with the Droppo character, it's pretty miserable.
His gay little run.
This film is made up of peaks and valleys. It has select moments that are funny, but a grand majority of it is chintzy boredom. I do like how the movie is so retro that the robot the Martians use unironically looks like the robot from that one movie SpongeBob was watching.
You can't come in here! No one's allowed!
What do you mean I shouldn't watch this?
There's even a guy in a crappy polar bear suit that appears for one scene and is never brought back. We really needed a fight scene between it and the robot.
Has someone been mistreating you?
Oh, no,
Well, you
sir.
did
You
steal
and
us
Lady
from our
Mama have just been
home.
swell.
This movie is utterly confounding. At times enjoyably goofy and other times tedious and trite. It does not fill me with the Christmas spirit. Get a group together to watch this one. Don't attempt to solo it.
Took a while.
Oh, they want us to do a karaoke. It's not happening.
It's not. No. No, it's not fucking happening.
Cha-cha-cha.
Everybody.
Teenagers from Outer Space is a 1959 B-movie with a title so ridiculous it could only really be used earnestly for a film of this era. The film was apparently written, directed, edited, and produced by one person, and he even has a small role. So, you know, it's a real auteur film.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
Apparently at one point he also called himself Jesus Christ II? Like, what the hell did I just stumble into?
From where have you learned such things?
Extraterrestrial teenagers come down in a tiny UFO to use Earth as a breeding ground for their giant lobsters named Gargans. Yes, really.
It won't work! Run! Go start the motor!
They're not a race of teenagers, but these are younger members of a humanoid alien species. One teenager, named Derek, Yes, this is an alien named Derek, cares about humanity, and falls in love with a human girl.
You are not familiar with the focusing disintegrator ray?
The what?
This movie is awfully optimistic about 1950s America. Everyone is so unrealistically nice to this weird guy they just met. From what I know about the 50s, anyone who shows up in town with weird clothing would get labeled as a communist or something. The teenagers have death rays that disintegrate the flesh of any living thing they hit. It's pretty silly, but conceptually gruesome, I guess. I can't remember if it's been featured in a movie I've talked about yet, but this may be the first movie on the channel that uses the infamous Bronson Cave, a filming location for many, many, many B-movies. In this movie, it's used as the breeding ground for the Gargans. The special effects on this thing speaks for itself.
You're not from this world, are you?
Lady, we're an hour and 2 minutes into this movie. How have you not parsed this information sooner?
But it had life. And that life you had to take to satisfy your endless hunger for killing.
Silence!
The dialogue, whether it's coming from the robotic aliens or the humans, is deliciously absurd and delivered with complete confidence.
You will take me to a man of surgery to remove the metal pellets from my flesh.
Attacked by monster. Wait, what's that about a Hollywood visitor marrying 14 people?
I have not been drinking.
It does feel its hour and 25-minute length at points, but I thought the movie was pretty fun. It's consistently entertaining and endearing because it remains sincere. No matter how silly the dialogue and situation is, the acting and direction are genuinely trying to sell them.
You are the son of our leader.
Teenagers from Outer Space is a delightfully cheesy time. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm surprised by how much I enjoyed this one. It was definitely made by someone who claimed to be Jesus Christ II. Also, I'm learning about this through a tweet, but apparently this entire movie is an unlockable extra in Destroy All Humans. That's pretty funny. So these next two movies, Crash of the Moons and Menace from Outer Space, are actually compilations of episodes from the 1954 TV show Rocky Jones Space Ranger. I had never heard of this series before. These movies aren't the most compelling pitches to get me to watch the show, but, they're not unwatchable. Crash of the Moons concerns Rocky Jones's efforts to evacuate a space colony before a moon crashes into it. And Menace from Outer Space is about a bunch of aliens trying to destroy the Earth. Yeah, these movies aren't very good. They really bored me. You can tell they're more deliberately paced television episodes stitched together into a feature. They drop you into the middle of the story with no context for who Rocky Jones is, or what he does, or what year it is, or why I should give a shit. It's almost comical how many times they show the spaceship taking off and landing in Crash of the Moons. I guess it's better acted than some movies intended for actual movie theater distribution. There really isn't much to the series outside of some decent special effects for the time and fine acting. I can see why it was largely forgotten. It wasn't one of television's more enduring franchises. It's no Star Trek. Menace from Outer Space is the worst of the two, so Crash of the Moons is the one you'd want to go with if you ever have a gun to your head and you're forced to pick between one or the other. Not very good.
You know, I'd be relieved if I knew what was happening.
Now the next four movies all relate to Hercules, the bastard son of Zeus, which is really testing the definition of a sci-fi classic. But I'll talk about them anyways, they're here. These movies are all unrelated outside of being Italian productions that have something to do with Hercules. Outside of Hercules Against the Moonmen, because it was turned into a Hercules movie through the dub, but I'll get there when I get there.
You see, he has no respect. What are these?
The first movie of the Hercathon is Hercules Unchained, a sequel to the 1958 film Hercules. No idea why it isn't on this box set too, but it's not really required viewing.
Hey buddy, I think you got the wrong door. The leather club's 2 blocks down.
Fuck you.
Maybe you and I should settle it right here on the ring if you think.
In the middle of a mission to settle the quarrel between the sons of Oedipus, I shudder to think of who the wife of Oedipus is, Hercules accidentally drinks some amnesia water. No, seriously, that's what the ominous booming voice says.
These are the waters of forgetfulness.
He is then held captive by Queen Omphale, who apparently does this to everyone who drinks the water. She also kills the previous husband to make room for the new one.
Pearls must have contact with the flesh before they take their best sheen.
I suppose the Unchained in the title is in reference to Hercules forgetting he's married. While Hercules is fucking around with her, one of Oedipus's sons threatens to put Hercules' real wife to death. He eventually regains his memories and escapes the queen, racing to save his real wife from certain doom.
Come on into the water.
I'm not afraid. It's only that the doctors haven't discovered a cure for rheumatism.
We're gonna kill you. The middle portion where Hercules is messing around with the queen is pretty boring, but the sets are massive and lavish throughout. The cast of extras is in the hundreds. There's a lot to appreciate with the production design here. The cinematography in places, even in this cut-off pan and scan form, is pretty good. I like how this scene starts with the leaves brushing up against the lens. It's a great way of introducing the setting. There are plenty of great trucking shots throughout. The cinematography and effects design was directed by Mario Bava, who would go on to have a prolific career in Italian horror films, including Bay of Blood, considered one of the most influential proto-slasher films. But all of that is just window dressing, just stuff that's visually there. What is it like to actually watch this movie? Well, I did say earlier that the middle portion was pretty boring, and I don't find the entire film all that compelling either. It has bursts of action and excitement, but the moment-to-moment storytelling is so slow, and the film's runtime is so long. The climax is where the film works the best. At that point, there's an action scene a minute, and it has the goofy spectacle of Hercules wrestling with a tiger plushie, in addition to a big battle at the end. It's definitely not bad, but outside of its production design, I didn't much care for it. I've got 3 more of these, so I'm unfortunately going to be here for a while. Hercules and the Captive Women doesn't have much to do with women being captured.
Kill me, I beg you.
Do not fear. It was originally titled Hercules and the Conquest of Atlantis, but I guess the distributors over at Warner Brothers wanted to sex it up.
The youngsters today think only about girls.
Hercules is accompanied by his sons and a little person to settle a disagreement between 2 kingdoms or something. It's less that he wants to do this and more like his son drugged him and brought him on an adventure he has no interest in. After a storm separates him from the rest of the crew, he saves a woman from an evil shapeshifter, and she takes him to her home, the mythical Atlantis.
You must die. No. No. I don't want to die.
I guess having massive, impressive sets just comes naturally with an Italian Hercules production like the last movie. This movie was apparently shot in 70mm, so it stinks that the version of it on the Mill Creek set is a cropped pan and scan. Kinda ironic how the Mystery Science Theater version has better image clarity too. I can't help but empathize with Hercules here. I wanted to sleep through this one too. Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, this American cut of the movie rescored it and added stock music, which included the Gillman cue from Creature from the Black Lagoon. Check out my Gillman trilogy video when you have the chance. Anyways, Hercules and the Captive Women isn't bad by any means. It just didn't really grab me. It has great production design, but I really couldn't jive with the pacing. Maybe I would have enjoyed it more if I saw it in a theater with its proper aspect ratio. Also, come on, you can't just have a guy in a monster suit for one scene and then never again. There needs to be more of that. As is, it's dull. I don't really care for any of these Hercules movies, so let's just get them over with.
I shall see to it that nobody sits upon your throne during your absence.
Hercules Tyrants of Babylon doesn't do much to improve my opinion of these things. Man, these Mill Creek Hercules flicks are doing a great job at making me realize I don't much care for sword and sandal movies. All the Herc films so far are technically impressive, but rather dull.
I accept.
I'm impressed by the spectacle, but the scenes connecting them are uninvolving and dry. It's hard to convey, but it's just something that doesn't interest me. It must be a combination of elements. The cropped aspect ratio reducing the scope, the muffled audio and visuals. It's weird because I like Greek mythology. Maybe the movies are just bad. Or maybe it's because they appropriated the visual aesthetics of Greek mythology and applied them to a boring fucking sword and sandal movie. Anyways, Hercules once again does battle with a large empire as he attempts to free slaves from Babylon, his primary motivation being that his wife is among them. Hercules has a pretty great entrance in this one. He swings around a big club, which is certainly different for the character. The past two Hercules actors have fit the role quite well, but there's something about this Hercules that doesn't quite work. He's got a baby face. I really don't have much else to say about this one. There's another impressive battle at the end, I guess. I guess that's a hallmark of this genre at this point. Also, evil queens. I tried to get into it, but I really couldn't. Next. Now this next Hercules movie is a little different. It's not actually a Hercules movie. It was originally a film starring an Italian original character named Menace. The name was changed by American distributors, and as a result we have Hercules against the Moon Men. While it may lack Hercules, Hercules against the Moon Men lives up to its name in another way, by actually having science fiction elements. Some science fiction elements. An evil queen, try not to get confused, there have been more than a few so far, sides with a species of aliens who have an army of rock monsters at their disposal, and it's up to Hercules, or Menace, to stop them. He's basically Hercules. I can see why they changed the name, it doesn't make much of a difference. Alright, what else happens? Hercules fights a weird monkey man. This scene and this monkey man character are never referred to again. There's a lot of clunky exposition. Hercules takes a long time to escape this trap. There's a lot of wandering around. And after that, there's wandering around in a sandstorm. And after that, there's even more wandering around in a sandstorm. And after that, there's a lot of wandering around in a sandstorm. Deep hurting. This movie is infamous for starting the deep hurting running gag in Mystery Science Theater. Deep hurting is in reference to the sandstorm scene that goes on for an unbearable amount of time. The film wasn't exactly moving at a brisk pace before, but it just comes to a dead stop here. The sequence is utterly incomprehensible at times due to this rancid transfer too. It's easily the worst scene out of any one of these 4 Hercules movies. Speaking of, this movie, although not intended to be one, is also the worst of these Hercules movies. The blend of science fiction and fantasy is a great idea, but Hercules just doesn't interact with the sci-fi stuff until the end of the film. The pacing is absolutely unbearable. Hercules against the Moon Men is a chore. Getting through these Hercules movies has been a Herculean effort. Ay, haha, badum tish, haha. Nah, but seriously, I'm in fucking agony here. Hopefully the next sci-fi movie will be better. Right? I take it back. I don't want to go back to sci-fi. Mesa of Lost Women is an endurance test masquerading as a motion picture. The challenge? How long can you stand this soundtrack? It never stops. It's genuinely maddening. I think I came out of this movie a worse person because of this goddamn soundtrack.
Have you ever been by a girl like this?
What?
Have you ever been by a girl like this?
This is the first line of the movie, and I'm already confused.
Ay caramba.
You can hear what it's supposed to be in the film's trailer.
Have you ever been kissed by a woman like this?
So, the plot. A mad scientist named Dr. Aranya has successfully created a race of female spider hybrids who have access to telepathy. The men who get experimented on are turned into dwarfs. His prized creation is a woman named Tarantella, who can regenerate bullet wounds. Anyways, another scientist threatens to destroy Aranya's work and gets injected with stupid juice, and after regaining his memories he shoots Tarantella and somehow gets an entire group of people to take a plane, only for it to oh so coincidentally crash near the mad scientist's lair. They then proceed to get harassed by the spider people for the rest of the runtime. It's a clunky, meandering story, and of course that fucking guitar is playing the entire time.
Dr. Aranya! Aranya. That's Spanish for spider.
Yes it is. Thank you. The acting and dialogue across the board is otherwise wooden or terrible. This guy is supposed to be crazy, so you'd think his bad acting would be indicative of that.
I want to fly.
You want to...
I've always wanted to fly.
But he has terrible delivery even before he goes crazy, so I think he's just a bad actor.
Oh, we've arrived.
Normally I'd complain about a print of a movie being so crap that it has an awkward jump cut.
That was a foolish thing to do. This was no imagination.
But at 59 minutes into the movie, I'm just happy it gets the movie over slightly sooner. The closest this film gets to being enjoyably schlock is when the shitty immobile spider prop is on screen, which is sadly quite rare. There's this smug-ass narrator who talks trash about humanity.
Strain, the monstrous assurance of this race of puny bipeds with overblown egos.
Like, bro, you're human too, and you're in Mesa of lost women. Shit your pants, you pretentious asshole.
Yes, you're right, Dan. Common sense tells you there isn't anything to his story.
I want to smash the guitar over the head of the guy who thought this soundtrack was a good idea.
Soon their nerves will break.
I think this movie was made to hurt people.
Nervous systems of insects.
Alright, I think that'll do for now. Tune in next week, where I'll be taking a look at an action movie starring Brandon Lee.
Haha, they're going to cut off your head, manana.
A trilogy of stinky sci-fi movies directed by a guy who thinks aliens that look like this are scary, and one of the most infamous Z-grade sci-fi movies of the early 50s. Catch you on the flip side. Once again, a very special thank you to my patrons. You guys helped make this video possible. And now a shout out to my $5 patrons: Dante Infante, Ziggy Zigra, It's Good Z, Big Odilo, An Actual Demetrodon, CMG, Red Comet Harry, and Marpzilla. Thank you very much.